Okay, so today I'm going to talk about the history of Overstock, its rises and falls in the stock market, and some of the opportunities where you could have traded it and made some big money. Just as a heads up before I start, all of the charts are going to say BBBY, and that's just because Overstock recently bought the license to use BBBY as a name, and has changed ticker to that now. So if you see that, just ignore it. It is the Overstock charts. Okay, so Overstock's began its life as an online seller of liquidated inventory. And then in 1999, Patrick Byrne took over the failing company and began buying merchandise from the numerous companies that went bankrupt during the dot-com bubble. And he started reselling these online. However, it wasn't an instant success as the company didn't achieve its first annual profit until 10 years later in 2009. From here, their earnings kind of fluctuated between small losses and small gains for a few years until in 2013, the first trade opportunity presented itself. Overstock had posted their best full year earnings yet, and CEO Jamie Byrne was confident that they had returned to consistent profitability. This led the stock to gap up around 18%, as you can see there, and investors started to flood in. The stock had been going nowhere for kind of 6 months, as you can see. It gapped up on massive relative volume with some really great news for the company. And in the following 3 months, it ran up over 165%. After this impressive run, though, in 2013, Overstock saw an opportunity and distinguished itself by being the first major retailer to accept Bitcoin as a form of payment. This was after Bitcoin had run up about 2000% the same year. Later that year, Overstock also launched Medisci, a subsidiary to focus on blockchain technology, and its main focus was on building a blockchain-based trading platform for securities. This wasn't an instant success, though. The stock gave up most of its gains over the next couple of years as the overall market kind of chopped around. That is until in 2017 when the market was in the midst of a big bull cycle, and Overstock's blockchain subsidiary announced a joint venture with Rengen and the Argon Group to launch the regulated alternative trading system. The moment they had been talking about for all those years was finally here, and it came at the perfect time. Overstock had been going sideways for a couple of years now. Bitcoin was in the midst of its monumental bull run of 2017, and the overall market was just grinding higher. When investors heard about this news, they were excited, and volumes surged in as the price flew up 16% that day. The stock ran up 165% before it first closed below the 20-day moving average. And even if you weren't able to get in on the EP, it provided another great opportunity in terms of a breakout. You can see that after that initial pop, it kind of went sideways for 10, 11 days, got really tight on the 10 and the 20 day, and then it broke out of that tight range with some increased volume. And yeah, it ran up about 112% from there as well. Finally, the stock topped out about 90, a move of more than 250% since this news was released. But as Bitcoin began to give up its gains, so too did Overstock. 2018 was a terrible year for Overstock. Its market value plunged roughly 75%. This was like one of the worst performances amongst the public tech slash retail names. And the company had been aggressively increasing its sales and marketing spend in early 2018 to kind of try and drive the growth, but it backfired as revenue softened and losses mounted. By early 2019, Overstock disclosed that it had laid off nearly 250 employees over 2 months to control costs. And later on that year, CEO Patrick Byrne resigned following some really wild claims involving the deep state and a Russian spy. So his partner, Maria Butiana had pleaded guilty to acting as an unregistered foreign agent of the Russian state in 2018. And in an interview on CNN in 2019, he said that the former FBI Director James Comey knew 100% about him being instructed to conduct a relationship with Butiana, and that the FBI was hijacked from the top. Byrne said that Butina approached him and offered to introduce him to Russian officials and oligarchs, and that she asked to be put in touch with members of the Clinton, Ted Cruz, and Marco Rubio presidential campaigns in 2016 in exchange for that. Burns said that he and Butina first began a sexual relationship in 2015 after meeting at a libertarian conference, and shortly afterward he began cooperating with the FBI. So what did all this mean for the stock? Well, it was not good news at all. Overstock had been trading at a price below 7 as 2019 came to an end. And then in January of 2020, just as you thought it couldn't get much worse for the company, we had the first reports of a mysterious illness outbreak that would later go on to send the world upside down. Throughout the month of January, coronavirus began to spread outside of China, but the overall markets remained strong. And then on the 21st of January, the first case of coronavirus was reported in the US. It was after this that the market started to show some signs of weakness, falling about 4% in the next 2 weeks. But that was short-lasted, and the market shrugged this news off and rallied back to all-time highs due to a variety of factors, including slowing cases, Chinese stimulus, and economic fundamentals remaining solid. However, this was short-lasting as the number of cases began to spread and the concern began to rise. There was no holding up the stock market, and it began to drop rapidly. The S&P 500 lost 20% during the quarter. It was its worst since 2008. During this time, Overstock had fallen even further. Come the 18th of March 2020, it was trading at just 250, a mere shadow of its level 90 just a few years ago. But it's often these stocks that can make the biggest moves when they turn around, especially when the overall market is rebounding from such a large sell-off. And during March, the overall market began to show some signs of bottoming after it rebounded around 20% from the lows and started to hold over the 10-day moving average. And in this time, Overstock also had rallied and held above the 20-day moving average, as you can see. It then popped out of this small range here and ran up about 300% over the next 25 days before having an orderly pullback and just starting to build out this high tight flag that you can see here right on the 20-day moving average. The range just gets tighter and tighter and the volume's just drying up. It may seem like this is like a little overextended after being up 300%, but the overall market was just starting to get going, and when a stock has been down for that long, it can make some really big moves when it has the market behind its back. It then broke out of this tight range on increased volume, and from this breakout it ran up further 650% from 17 up to 128.50 in August. New all-time highs for the stock. If you would have bought on this breakout here, the stock made a 600% move before it closed below the 20-day moving average. And this just shows the importance of following your sell rules when the stock was up 100, 200, or even 300%. It seems like it can't go any higher, and you could sell your position and then you just miss out on another 300% move. So yeah, that's the story of Overstock. Some of its highs and lows and the scandals that went with it, and really just some of the trading opportunities that were there to be taken throughout the years. They came back time and time again. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed watching it. Thank you very much.